What do you fear most? As fear, after all, is deeply individual, shaped by our personalities and experiences. This holds true not just for people, but for the colors of Magic: The Gathering as well. For what haunts white is worlds apart from what might unnerve black, if black even experiences fear in the same way. That's why I want to dive into what each color dreads, using the framework of horror genres to better understand these anxieties. As we explore, you might even find shadows of your own fears reflected in the dark corners of this discussion. So with that, let's descend into the unknown, beginning, as we always do, with white. White fears the harbinger of senseless violence, the slasher, the threat that stalks the shadows, bringing fear to the innocent and guilty alike. This genre of horror goes against white's understanding that people are inherently good, but the slasher operates outside of such notions, where morality, reason, and the social contract mean nothing, and survival becomes a desperate, lawless struggle against an unstoppable force. Even more unsettling for white is the idea that the slasher thrives in the very shadows that order and law are meant to illuminate. Where white seeks to build a society of rules and collective safety, the slasher embodies the failure of those systems to protect the vulnerable. It's not just an attack on individuals, it's an assault on the entire system that white painstakingly builds on the back of righteousness. The slasher forces white to confront the possibility that no matter how perfect the system, evil can still slip through the cracks unchecked. In the face of such primal violence, white's deep-rooted faith in justice is shaken, leaving white in a constant battle to maintain control over a world that seems destined to veer into sadistic brutality when left unchecked. This genre of horror is best exemplified by films like Halloween, Friday the 13th, and the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, each driven by killers who act without remorse, motivated by primal or irrational urges, with no higher purpose guiding their actions, only suffering and death. This type of horror is a nightmare because it represents the collapse of everything it holds dear. Because even after the killer is gone, what's left is fear, and in that fear our social bonds begin to erode like a sickness. Blue fears that which is beyond understanding and reasoning, that of the cosmic or Lovecraftian horror. Common themes in this genre often revolve around very rational blue characters who come to the terrifying realization that no matter how much they seek to understand, there are things that lie beyond the grasp of logic. The horror in this genre lies in the fear that the more blue tries to learn, the more it begins to understand how insignificant and powerless it truly is in the face of an infinite, unknowable cosmos, where knowledge brings madness, not mastery, revealing that some truths are so vast, so alien, that the very act of seeking them out can unravel the seeker's mind. For Blue, this is the ultimate betrayal, its pursuit of mastery leading not to enlightenment, but to the abyss of total madness. The fear isn't just of the unknown, but of the knowledge itself becoming a poison, warping the mind and distorting the very fabric of reality. In this way, cosmic horror exposes the limits of Blue's confidence in reason, forcing it to confront the terrifying idea that some things are meant to remain forever unknowable. In the stories written by the master of this genre, H.P. Lovecraft, such as The Call of Cthulhu, At the Mountain of Madness, or Shadows over Innsmouth, characters with sound intellects encounter vast, ancient forces beyond human understanding, entities so alien and powerful that the mind can barely comprehend them, because they pull away the logical curtain that humans place to reason away the world around them. Instead, they find out that they are nothing, insignificant in the face of the infinite void. Black fears the hand that takes a capable person and crushes their resolve until their will is broken, that of the institutionalized horror, where societal systems and institutions strip away not just power, but the very identity that Black strives so hard to define and control. Black fears this kind of horror because it fights so hard to break free from society's restrictions, seeking to forge its own path and identity. But in this way, identity becomes a trap, something that makes it stand out, like a nail to be hit with the hammer. Institutionalized horror represents the loss of everything Black holds dear, the destruction of ambition, autonomy, and self-determination, leaving Black powerless, trapped in a system that controls its fate and erases the hard-fought clarity it has achieved. This institution might be something literal, like that of an asylum that keeps you drugged and bound, or more abstract, like that of the crushing weight of a gray bureaucratic system, where one is but a number to be filed and forgotten. Black fears the horror that twists one's sense of self, making one doubt their own strength and purpose. It's not just the stripping of power that terrifies Black, it's the subtle erosion of belief in one's ability to ever reclaim it. This form of horror is like a mirror, reflecting back an image of Black, not as the self-reliant individual, but as just another cog in the machine, a faceless number behind an endless web of mediocrity, an existential dread that Black cannot abide. This concept is exemplified in films like Brazil, Vivarium, or the series American Horror Story, specifically Asylum, which all explore this concept of a system stripping a competent person of their identity through bureaucratic systems that act as if they're there to help, when in fact they are nothing but machines of an oppressive system. For no sin is greater to Black than being deprived of its ability to carve out its own life. Instead, it's left screaming and broken. Red fears the loss of autonomy, of its ability to act of its own, and of the loss of control found in possession or poltergeist horror. The horror here lies in the concept of being trapped within one's own mind and body, watching helplessly as a foreign force takes over. For Red, this is a nightmare scenario where its sense of self and freedom are stolen, leaving it a prisoner in its own skin, controlled by something it cannot fight, as it acts out on its own, hurting those you love, a sickness of the soul. You see, Red thrives on spontaneity, on the freedom to feel and express its emotion without restraint, but possession horror warps that core essence, turning Red's own desires and impulses into weapons wielded by something else. It's not just the fear of being unable to act freely, but the terror of seeing its own fiery spirit twisted into something monstrous. The horror lies in the betrayal of its very identity, its love, its anger, its joy, all manipulated to serve an alien will. We see this sort of horror play out in films like The Exorcist, The Conjuring, and Hereditary, where characters are overtaken by malevolent forces that strip away their free will, transforming them into vessels for spirits or demons. For Red, which values freedom, emotional expression, and impulsive action, the idea of being possessed, of losing control of its own body and desires, is the ultimate nightmare. Green fears the perversion of the sacred life and body we have been granted, as seen in the body horror genre, where flesh is torn, twisted, and made into something unrecognizable. It's in these gut-wrenching scenarios where Green loses all sense of who it is and what this life was supposed to be. In this way, Green is disturbed by the desecration of the natural order itself, where body horror turns the beauty of life into a grotesque mockery of what was granted. You see, Green holds life as sacred, something pure, with every creature and form having its rightful place. But in body horror, this balance is shattered, with flesh becoming a canvas for unnatural transformations, twisting life into something monstrous and wrong, where the body, once a symbol of growth and vitality, is manipulated into a vessel for suffering. Green fears this because it goes against everything it cherishes about life's inherent dignity and purpose. The thought of life being reshaped without the guidance of nature, of something artificial taking control of what was once sacred, is a nightmare that gnaws at Green's core. In these moments, Green faces a world where life is no longer a gift, but a curse, a horrifying reminder that even the most fundamental truths of existence can be twisted into something grotesque and terrifying. In films like Hellraiser, The Fly, and The Human Centipede, we witness how the beauty of life and the human form are twisted into something unrecognizable. And what's more is that the perpetrator finds satisfaction in such acts. For green, which values the harmony and beauty of nature, these perversions of life are the ultimate nightmare, defying nature itself. Across each of these horrors, we see a stark reflection of the deepest fears that lie at the heart of the color pie. Each of these fears speak to something intrinsic about the colors themselves, a breaking point where their core values are turned against them, leaving them vulnerable to horrors that challenge their very identity. In facing these nightmare scenarios, each color confronts the terrifying possibility that the world is not as safe, knowable, or natural as they believe. It's here, in the face of such primal fears, that each color's vulnerabilities are laid bare, as they grapple with horrors that force them to question the very foundations of who they are. Thanks for watching this rather morbid video, and if you still need more dark, spooky content, then check out this video here where I talk about the horror produced in each color, or this documentary on the history of horror in Magic the Gathering. And with that, friends, I will catch you in the multiverse. Bye.